Greetings, hello, welcome on in, Unoptimized Fool from the closet. Glad you could be here. Listen, I want to talk about, God almighty, that hit my leg. Jeez, it's dangerous here in the closet. I want to talk about the new raid, and actually its new Renown track that is just for the raid itself. And kind of, again, opening new opportunities here for raiding, right? So, as you know, in 11.1, if you don't know, welcome on in. There's a new Renown track obviously coming for everything else with the cartels, right? But there's a new Renown track coming just for the raid itself. You can only earn reputation for that Renown track through the raid by killing the bosses and participating in the raid. So obviously in 11.0, we got the Severed Strands buff, which every 2 weeks you could turn in those little thingy bobbers, right, into that you get from killing the bosses to that giant spider at the beginning of the raid, and you can get the buff, right? It's like a 2.5 whatever buff per 2 weeks, right? And over time, it makes the experience a little bit easier for people to get the kills and also stuff like that. So it looks like they're expanding that system, but kind of going more towards a passive acquisition, right? Now, obviously, there's hard caps to how many reputation for the Renown track you can get per week because of, obviously, the limitations of the bosses there. And it looks like it's going to be a passive, Severed Strands. So with Severed Strands, you would have to loot something. You would take an inventory space up in your inventory, and then you would have to hand it in. And sometimes I honestly forget that it's there, right? And then someone's like, "Why is your strands only, this amount of percent when we're all this percent?" I'm like, "Oh, I forgot to hand it in. My bad. Let me do that real quick." So I think they saw that there was some weird, obviously inventory being taken up. Again, inventory is a premium these days. And also some people were forgetting. They probably saw some statistics about that. So they decided to make it the Renown. Right? Obviously, as you increase the Renown, some of the tracks will give that buff automatically. So if you unlock it, it automatically gets applied to you. You don't have to turn it in, which is awesome. I think that takes away that middle ground of just turning in the Severed Strands. So that always kind of felt weird and somewhat awkward. Again, you usually just get into raid and start killing things like a mindless murder hobo that we are. Now, not only do we have the buffs to the encounters, just like we see in Severed Strands, but we also have cosmetics tied in with this Renown track, right? So cosmetics that are specific to this Renown track, which again, you can only get by doing encounters inside the raid, hopefully will mean more people will dive into the raid itself, right? Now, participation in Mythic Plus has always been greater than raiding ever since its incorporation in Legion. So I'm a big fan of raids and not a big fan of Mythic Plus. Again, I've been doing Mythic Plus. I have over 2K rating. Again, nothing impressive to the orange boys out there, but it is good enough for me. 2K is perfectly fine for me, right? So I think it's 2.3K. Who cares, right? It's not that impressive. I've only done 10s, right? Nothing over that, right? And basically, I think, again, this track also works for, obviously, you can't double dip. There's going to be a hard cap. So if you do this stuff in Heroic Raid, you can't go in the normal and advance it further. There'll probably be some weird glitch later on that people find. But basically, you can get the same amount of stuff in LFR, normal, Heroic, or Mythic. So no matter what difficulty you do, you're on the same Renown track, which is awesome. So hopefully more people get into raid, because honestly, raiding is a lot of fun, and honestly maybe get more people pushed into the raiding ecosystem, because honestly I think a lot of people miss out on raids, and I'm a huge raider, so I love that type of stuff. But yeah, I just wanted to report on that. Honestly, I think it's a really good idea that we're advancing the Severed Strands, but in a more passive and tried into the Renown track. They're expanding the Severed Strands, and I was iffy about the Severed Strands, and kind of, obviously I thought they were just going to soft nerf this encounter and not do any big nerfs, but I was wrong, which I'm glad I was, and I will say when I'm wrong. Don't tell my wife. And basically, I think expanding on the system is great, and honestly, I like the direction it's going. I think making it more passive is better for the future. Well, I want to hear your opinions about this. If it's your first time hearing about it, let me know in the comments, and I will see you guys later. Unoptimized Fool from the closet. Glad you could be here. Bye-bye.